I never planned to ruin Christmas. But when your own mother calls you the most useless child she's ever had in front of the man you love, something inside you stops pretending. My name is Lydia Carter. I'm 33 years old, and I own a branding studio in Austin, Texas. On paper, I'm doing fine 7 employees, a condo overlooking Lady Bird Lake, clients who trust my vision. But in my family's eyes, I've always been the invisible middle child from Omaha, Nebraska, the one who didn't quite fit the picture of perfection my mother painted. Tonight, that picture finally cracked. We were halfway through Christmas dinner, the table glowing with candles and polished silver, when my mother looked up from carving the roast and said, "Honestly, Lydia, you're older than Rachel, still unmarried, no kids, and that little design hobby of yours doesn't count as real work. What do you even bring to this family?" Every fork froze. Nathan, sitting beside me, stiffened. He had never met my family before. I'd warned him they could be challenging, but I hadn't expected this. The air turned sharp enough to cut. I forced a smile, pretending her words didn't sting, but the heat behind my ribs said otherwise. For 33 years, I'd tried to earn her approval through grades, through money, through silence. Tonight, I felt that silence snap. Before I tell you what happened next, how one dinner turned into the moment my family's perfect image collapsed, tell me something. Have you ever been called useless by the people you worked hardest to love? If you have, you'll understand what came after. And if stories about family drama, boundaries, and finally standing up for yourself sound familiar, hit that like button, subscribe, and stay with me. Because this Christmas, I didn't just find my voice, I used it. After that Christmas dinner, while everyone's laughter faded into awkward silence, a part of me drifted back to the first time I learned what being invisible felt like. I grew up in a quiet suburb outside Omaha, Nebraska, where every house looked the same and so did every dream. My mother, Margaret, believed life had a formula: good grades, college, marriage, children, repeat. My father, Frank, followed her rhythm without missing a beat. My older brother Ethan was the golden boy from the start. I still remember the Friday nights under those buzzing stadium lights. Mom painted his jersey number on her cheek, while Dad recorded every touchdown. Meanwhile, I sat in the bleachers with my sketchbook, drawing the field instead of cheering. When I once showed her a portrait I'd drawn of Ethan mid-throw, she didn't even look up from her phone. "Sweetie, why don't you try joining the cheer squad instead? At least that's useful." Then there was Rachel, the perfect daughter. She baked cookies for every bake sale, wore pearls to Sunday church, and by 25 she was already Mrs. Someone with a mortgage and a minivan. Mom would brag, "Rachel made the cutest Thanksgiving centerpiece for her in-laws." The message was clear. Rachel did it right. By contrast, I was the creative phase that refused to end. I spent hours in my room surrounded by colored pencils and old magazines, cutting and sketching designs that only made sense to me. When I told my mother I wanted to study design at the University of Texas, she blinked like I'd said I wanted to run away with the circus. "Design? That's not a career, Lydia. It's a hobby. You'll thank me when you outgrow it." But I never did. My father tried, in small, cowardly ways, to show he cared. Sometimes he'd slip me $20 and whisper, "For your art supplies, don't tell your mom." I loved him for that, but even then I knew his affection came wrapped in fear. The only person who never asked me to change was Sophie, my youngest sister, barely a teenager when I left for college. She'd sneak into my room to borrow markers and ask me to draw her future house. "Make it pink," she'd say, "with a swing in the backyard." When I moved to Austin years later, I promised myself that one day I'd build a life where my worth didn't need to be explained or earned. But standing at that Christmas table years later, hearing my mother's voice slice through the room, I realized maybe I'd never really escaped Omaha at all. The ghosts of that house still knew my name, and this time I wasn't going to stay silent. Sometimes I think I came to Austin to start over, but really, I came here to breathe. The city hums differently. music spilling from open bars, murals splashed across cracked brick walls, the smell of roasted coffee blending with spring rain. It's messy, alive, unpretentious, nothing like Omaha. Maybe that's why I stayed. Most mornings, I walk to my studio, Carter & Company branding, tucked between a plant shop and a tattoo parlor on South Lamar. It's small, but bright big windows, cement floors, the hum of creativity instead of judgment. 7 people work with me now, all brilliant in their own ways. We design logos, campaigns, entire identities for small businesses trying to stand tall against the giants. Last month, we wrapped a major rebrand for Lone Star Brewing, a local craft company. Their sales jumped 30% after the launch. I should have been proud, but the first thing I thought when the numbers came in was, if only Mom could see this. Old habits die hard. That afternoon, I was sketching the early drafts of another project when Nathan walked in. Tall, easy smile, still in his dusty work boots from a job site. He leaned against the doorframe and said, "You forget to eat again, didn't you?" I looked up from my tablet and smirked. "Define forget." He held out a paper bag. "Chicken tacos. And yes, extra salsa, because I like living dangerously." That's Nathan. He doesn't try to fix me, he just shows up. He's an architect with hands that understand structure and a heart that understands space, especially the kind you need to heal. Later that evening, as we sat on my balcony overlooking the city lights, he asked, "You nervous about going home for Christmas?" I sighed, tracing the rim of my glass. Always. Every year I promise it'll be different, but somehow I end up shrinking back into the girl they decided I was. Nathan reached over, brushed his thumb across my hand. "Then maybe this year you don't shrink." I wanted to believe him, but history has a way of finding you, even when you build an entirely new life 3 states away. The truth is, no matter how much success I stack between me and Omaha, part of me still waits for one thing I may never get: a mother's approval. And this year, when I pack my bags for Nebraska again, I can already feel that old ache waking up. Because going home doesn't always mean returning. Sometimes it means walking straight into the fire you thought you'd already escaped. It was 2 days before Christmas when the past decided to call me. I was packing orders for a client at my studio when my phone buzzed with a number I hadn't saved, but I didn't need to. I knew that voice anywhere. "Hey, Lyd," Ethan said, his tone forced casual, the kind of voice you use before asking for something big. "Hey, stranger, what's up?" He hesitated, then exhaled sharply. "I wouldn't call if it wasn't serious. I'm in a bit of a situation." Of course he was. Ethan's situations had names: gambling on bad investments, business loans that went sideways, champagne taste on a beer budget. "What kind of situation?" I asked, already bracing myself. "The bank sent a foreclosure notice," he said quickly. "It's not as bad as it sounds. I just need to make a payment before the end of the year to stop the process." "How much?" $15,000. Just enough to hold them off until my new contract clears in February. I closed my eyes. The number hit like deja vu. 15,000, the magic sum that always seemed to find me. "Ethan," I said slowly, "I helped you last time. You still owe me." "I know, and I'll pay it back. You have my word." His word. I almost laughed. Ethan's promises had the lifespan of a snowflake in July. From across the room, Nathan looked up from his blueprints. He could read me too well. His eyebrows lifted in a silent question. "Again?" I turned away. "Why didn't you tell Mom or Dad?" "Because they don't need more stress," he said, "and Mom still thinks everything's perfect." "Please, Lyd, you've always been the responsible one. You get things done." Responsible, useful, the family fixer. The role I'd played so long it felt tattooed on my skin. "I'll think about it," I muttered. "Please," he whispered, "I'm begging you. Don't let my family lose our home at Christmas." I stared at the snow beginning to fall outside my window. Austin rarely saw flakes that stuck, But that day, they melted on the glass like something fragile giving up. "Fine," I said quietly. "I'll schedule the transfer for Monday. But this is the last time." Even as I said it, I knew I didn't believe myself. Some debts, it seemed, couldn't be paid with money. The flight from Austin to Omaha takes just over 2 hours, but every minute feels like flying backward in time. Outside the window, the endless stretch of snow looks like a clean slate. Too bad life doesn't work that way. I tell myself this trip will be different. I tell myself that every year. Nathan's beside me, flipping through a magazine, calm as ever. His quiet steadiness is both a comfort and a reminder of how chaotic my family can be. "You don't have to do this," he says softly. "We could have spent Christmas in Austin. Just us." "I know," I say, watching the clouds blur past. "But if I don't show up, Mom will act like I've abandoned them. If I do show up, she'll find a new reason to be disappointed. It's a lose-lose." He reaches over, laces his fingers through mine. "Then let's just make it about you this time. No fixing, no rescuing." I want to believe him. By the time we land, Omaha's air hits me like a slap, dry, cold, heavy with memories. We rent a car and start the 30-minute drive to my parents' house in the suburbs. The same quiet streets, the same Christmas lights, strung with surgical precision. My mother never allowed chaos, not even in decoration. "Looks tidy," Nathan says, trying to sound polite. "Too tidy," I mutter, like no one's breathed here since I left. When we pull into this driveway, my dad's old Buick still sits in the same spot it always has, as if it's been waiting for me. The porch light flickers. I can already smell my mother's cinnamon candles before I even step inside. "Deep breaths," Nathan whispers. Inside, warmth wraps around us, but not the comforting kind. The living room feels staged like a photograph that forgot to include love. My mother appears from the kitchen, apron perfectly pressed. "Lydia," she says, smiling tight, "you made it. And this must be—" "Nathan." Her tone has the politeness of a handshake at a job interview. Nathan offers his hand. "Nice to finally meet you, Mrs. Carter." She glances at his work boots, her smile thinning. "Oh, you're an architect? That's nice." Her voice drips with the same skepticism she's always reserved for anything I care about. And just like that, the walls of that house start closing in again. Christmas has officially begun. By 6 o'clock, the Carter household looks like a Norman Rockwell painting, if Rockwell had secretly hated his subjects. The dining table gleams under the chandelier, the turkey is perfectly browned, and Christmas music hums softly from the living room speakers. Everything looks warm, but the air feels brittle, ready to crack. Mom hovers near the oven, orchestrating the chaos with military precision. "Ethan, slice the ham evenly, not like last year's disaster. Rachel, check on the kids. And Lydia—" She glances at me, then at the wine bottle in my hand. "At least pour something useful." Nathan steps up beside me, placing a gentle hand on my back. "I've got it," he says, grabbing the corkscrew. He flashes her a polite smile. "Would you like red or white, Mrs. Carter?" She considers for a beat. "Red, but not too sweet, and thank you, Nathan." Her voice lingers on his name, like she's still trying to decide if he belongs here. From the living room, laughter erupts, Ethan's loud and performative. "You wouldn't believe it, Lyd. Closed 2 deals last week, best month of the year." I glance over. He's leaning against the mantel, holding court with Dad and Rachel's husband. His voice carries that same bravado that's always made me uneasy. "That's great," I say flatly, joining them. "So things are looking up?" He freezes for half a second too quick for anyone else to catch, but I notice. Yeah, you know how business is. Always moving. Always moving, I think, especially when it's toward my bank account. Rachel walks over, cheeks flushed from wine. "Lydia, you have to see my new kitchen remodel. We finally got the marble island installed. You'd love it." I force a smile. "Sounds beautiful." She turns to Nathan, eyes lighting up. You're an architect, right? Maybe you could come by and tell us what we did wrong. Nathan chuckles. Sounds like you did everything right. Mom swoops in then, adjusting napkins that don't need adjusting. Rachel's house is such a perfect reflection of stability, she says, with that careful tone of praise that's also a blade. It's so nice to see what a real home looks like. Her eyes flick toward me, then my empty ring finger. I feel Nathan stiffen beside me, ready to say something, but I shake my head slightly. Not yet. Not here. Dinner begins with all the traditional chatter, Dad asking about the weather, Mom complaining about the price of butter, Ethan bragging about investments. I mostly listen, pushing peas around my plate. Then it happens. Ethan leans back in his chair and grins. Hey, Mom. Dad, you'll love this. Diane and I are thinking of getting a new SUV, to keep up appearances with clients. Mom claps her hands, delighted. That's wonderful. You've worked so hard. You deserve it. Ethan shrugs modestly. Well, we might need to dip into savings for the down payment. Or, his eyes flick toward me. Maybe someone could help out, for family's sake. The room goes still. Mom looks at me expectantly, as if the idea is obvious. Lydia, sweetheart, you've done so well for yourself. It would mean so much if you could contribute. Consider it a Christmas gift to the family. Nathan's fork clinks softly against his plate. My heartbeat slows, my breath sharpens. For years, I've been their silent sponsor, their safety net, their invisible backbone. But tonight, something in me starts to shift. I set down my wine glass and smile. Mom, that is an interesting idea. The words hang in the air, sweet, calm, dangerous. Because this time, I'm not here to fix things. I'm here to break the pattern. I knew it was coming. The moment my mother would turn dinner into judgment. She always did. But this time, it hit harder because Nathan was sitting beside me. It started with a harmless question from Dad. So, Lydia, how's your business doing these days? Before I could answer, Mom jumped in. Oh, you mean that little art thing she runs? It's sweet, Frank. She's always been creative. Her tone was syrupy, but the sting underneath was sharp. Nathan spoke before I could. Actually, it's a full-scale branding studio. 7 employees, national clients. Mom raised a brow. National clients? She repeated, like he'd claimed I was running NASA. Well, isn't that adorable? Still, that's not quite the same as a real company, is it? Ethan chuckled, leaning back in his chair. Mom's just saying there's a difference between drawing logos and running a real business with, actual stakes. Like your real estate empire? I said coolly. Rachel nearly snorted her wine, covering it with a cough. Mom's voice sliced through the tension. Ethan's done very well for himself, and Rachel, well, she's given us 3 beautiful grandchildren. You can't put a price on that kind of success. She looked at me pointedly. Not everything in life is about money or work. I smiled tightly. You're right. Some of us just prefer to earn our achievements rather than marry into them. A hush fell over the table. Rachel's fork froze halfway to her mouth. Mom's eyes sharpened. That's unnecessary, Lydia. We're simply proud of the choices your siblings have made. You, on the other hand, she gave a delicate sigh. You've always marched to your own drum, haven't you? Nathan shifted beside me, his hand brushing mine under the table. It grounded me. Barely. Mom continued, voice soft but lethal. You're 34 now, aren't you? No husband, no children. Just work. She glanced at Nathan. And this lovely boyfriend, of course. I assume you're not rushing into anything serious? Nathan spoke up, his tone steady. Actually, we are. We've been discussing next steps. Mom's smile thinned. Oh? Well, that's surprising. Lydia's never struck me as the settling type. Always chasing something, success, independence, validation. It must be exhausting. Something in me snapped. Exhausting, I echoed. Yes, that's a word for it. Do you know what else is exhausting, Mom? spending a lifetime being compared to everyone else in this room, trying to prove my worth in a family that decided it for me before I was old enough to spell my own name. Ethan shifted uncomfortably. "Come on, Lyd, don't make it a scene." I turned to him. "You mean like the one where you called me last week begging for 15 grand to keep your house? That kind of scene?" Ethan's face went pale. "What the hell, Lydia?" Rachel gasped. "You what?" Mom blinked, stunned. "Ethan?" He tried to laugh it off. "She's exaggerating." "No, I'm not." My voice was calm now, frighteningly calm. "And while we're at it, maybe we should talk about all the other times I bailed this family out. The roof repair, Dad's car, Rachel's kids' tuition fund. Should I keep going?" Dad set his glass down slowly. "Lydia, maybe this isn't the time." "It's exactly the time," I said. My pulse thundered in my ears. "Because I'm done pretending this family is what it pretends to be. I'm done paying for everyone else's comfort while being told I'm the disappointment." Mom's face turned to stone. "You're overreacting," she hissed. "This bitterness of yours, it's unbecoming." "No, Mom," I said quietly. "It's overdue." The silence that followed was heavy enough to bend the walls. Then, in a voice colder than the snow outside, she said, "You are the most useless child this family has ever had." Every breath left my body. Ethan looked down. Rachel stared at her plate. Nathan reached for my hand, but I couldn't move. All I could think was, there it was. The truth she'd always believed, spoken out loud at last. And the funny thing was, for the first time in my life, I didn't feel small. I felt ready. The air freezes the moment my mother spits out the word useless. For a heartbeat, nobody moves. The Christmas lights blink behind her, reflecting off the crystal glasses like a mockery of joy. Nathan's hand tightens around mine under the table, but I can't even feel it. I can only hear my pulse thudding in my ears. Then, quietly, I push my chair back. The sound of its legs scraping against the hardwood slices through the silence like a blade. "Funny," I say, my voice steady, too calm. "Because for someone so useless, I seem to be the one keeping this family afloat." Mom's brows knit together. "What are you talking about?" Ethan stiffens in his seat. "Lydia, don't." "Oh, I'm definitely doing this," I say, standing fully now. "Let's start with you, Ethan. That successful business you keep bragging about? The one that's apparently doing so well you're shopping for luxury cars? You forgot to mention you're one missed payment away from losing your house." Rachel gasps, hand flying to her mouth. "What? Ethan?" He shoots me a glare, red creeping up his neck. "That's not true." "Really?" I pull out my phone, tap the screen, and hold it up. "Because I have the bank transfer receipt right here. $15,000. From me. Last week." Diane's face drains of color. "Ethan," she whispers, "you said you got a commission advance." "Diane, it's not—" But she's already standing, shaking her head. "You lied to me! Again!" Mom slams her hand against the table. "That's enough, Lydia! How dare you humiliate your brother like this in our home?" "Your home?" I laugh, sharp and bitter. "You mean the one I helped you save 3 years ago when the roof started leaking? Or maybe the one where I paid for Dad's heart medication because insurance wouldn't cover it?" Dad looks up, startled. "You did what?" Mom's voice cracks like a whip. She's twisting things. "No," I cut her off. "You lied. You told him those were covered by savings. You've been taking my money for years and calling it family duty. Every time you said, 'We're short this month,' or 'The roof needs repairs,' or 'Julia's tuition is too high,' I paid. Quietly. Because I thought if I helped enough, maybe, just maybe, you'd see me." My voice trembles now, but not from fear. From release. Rachel looks at me with wide eyes. "You paid Julia's tuition?" "Yes, half of it. The other half came from a second mortgage Mom claimed she took out." Julia, sitting at the far end of the table, bursts into tears. They told me they did it for me, that you didn't care. I always cared, I say softly. But I wasn't supposed to matter. That was the rule, wasn't it, Mom? Ethan was the pride, Rachel the perfection, Julia the baby, and me the backup plan with a wallet. Mom's face goes pale, but her chin lifts defiantly. You're being dramatic. We never asked you to do anything. I let out a low laugh. You never asked. You just made it impossible to say no. Dad's voice breaks the tension. Margaret, is it true? She rounds on him instantly. Oh, don't start, Frank. You think you know what it's like holding this family together? You think our children would have survived without me? Survived? I echo. You call this surviving? You've been feeding everyone a fantasy built on lies and shame. I was the one holding things together while you took the credit. Nathan finally speaks, his voice calm but firm. Mrs. Carter, Lydia's not exaggerating. I've seen the transfers. She's helped all of you more than any of you realize. Mom turns to him, eyes blazing. You stay out of this. You're just an outsider. You don't understand our family. He meets her glare. No, I understand perfectly. I just don't confuse control for love. For the first time in my life, my father stands up for me. Margaret, he says, his voice steady. This isn't love. This is manipulation. She looks at him as if he's betrayed her. Don't you dare take her side. I'm taking the side of the truth, he replies quietly. Ethan slams his fist on the table. You had no right to expose me like that. I turn to him, exhausted. You had no right to keep taking. I've covered your debts 3 times, Ethan. 3! And every time you said it would be the last. Diane's eyes well with tears. 3 times? My God! Ethan tries to stand, but Nathan's quiet voice stops him. Sit down, man. You've done enough damage. Rachel breaks the silence next. I didn't know, she whispers, looking at me with something that almost resembles guilt. Mom always said you didn't want to help, that you were selfish. I let out a breath I didn't know I'd been holding. That's the part that hurts the most. I wasn't selfish. I was desperate to belong. I thought if I kept giving, you'd finally see me. The silence stretches, heavy and electric. Mom stands rigid, refusing to meet my eyes. You're humiliating yourself, she says coldly, parading our private matters like a child. Do you think this makes you better than us? I look straight at her. No, Mom. It just makes me free. I reach for my phone again, scrolling through my banking app. And since you've all treated my support as an obligation, not a gift, I've decided to stop playing the family bank. Starting now. Mom's face twists. What do you mean, starting now? I tap the screen. Remember that automatic payment I set up for Ethan's mortgage? I just canceled it. Ethan's face drains of color. You didn't. I did. The silence that follows is deafening. I'm done funding lies, I say finally, setting the phone down. If you want to rebuild this family, you can start by doing it without my money and without my silence. I turn to Nathan, who stands with me, his presence like a shield. As I walk toward the door, I hear Mom's voice trembling for the first time, not with anger, but disbelief. Lydia, if you walk out now, don't come back. I stop, hand on the doorknob, and glance over my shoulder. You've been saying that my whole life, Mom. I'm just finally listening. Then I walk out into the cold, into the dark, into freedom. The front door is only a few feet away, but something in me refuses to leave just yet. Not this time. Not before I finish it. I stop mid-step, my hand still on the doorknob. My reflection glints in the glass panel red eyes, trembling breath, and something else, resolve. Slowly, I turn back toward the table. Everyone's still frozen, like someone hit pause on a family drama too uncomfortable to keep watching. Mom stands stiff near the china cabinet. Dad's halfway between sitting and standing. Ethan looks like he's trying to figure out if he's still breathing. Actually, I say, my voice slicing through the tension, there's one more thing. Nathan, standing behind me, whispers, "Lydia." I shake my head slightly. "No, I'm not done." I walk back to the table, heels tapping against the hardwood. Every step sounds louder than it should, a drumbeat counting down to the end of something big. Mom crosses her arms. "What could you possibly have left to say?" "Oh, not say," I reply evenly. "Show." I pull my phone from my coat pocket again. My fingers don't even shake this time. The screen glows, illuminating the mess I'm about to unleash. "See this?" I hold up the display, scrolling through the app. "That $15,000 Ethan begged for last week?" "Cancelled, effective immediately." Ethan surges to his feet, face crimson. "Lydia, you can't just—" "I can, and I did," I say calmly. "Because for once, you're going to learn what happens when you run out of lifelines." Diane's voice trembles. "You mean the bank will foreclose," I say bluntly. "Yes." Ethan gapes at me, then at our parents. "You're seriously okay with this? You're just going to let her ruin me?" Mom's voice cracks with fury. "You see what you've done, Lydia? You've humiliated your brother and broken this family's trust." I laugh, a short, humorless sound. "Trust? That's rich, coming from the woman who's been lying to Dad about where the money came from." Dad looks from her to me, confusion turning to dawning horror. "Wait, what money?" I take a deep breath. "The $50,000 you used as a down payment on this house 8 years ago? You told everyone it came from savings and Dad's retirement fund. It didn't." Mom's eyes flash. "Lydia, it came from me," I cut her off. "Every penny. I transferred it into your account after you called crying about losing your dream home. You promised it was a loan, but somehow it turned into your miracle savings story." Dad's jaw tightens. "Margaret, is that true?" Mom's silence says everything. "Unbelievable," he murmurs, sinking into his chair. I scroll again on my phone, fingers gliding over the screen like I've rehearsed this 100 times in my mind. "So here's what's going to happen," I say, my voice steady now. "I'm filing to reclaim that $50,000 as a formal loan. You can dispute it, of course, but I have the records, the transfers, and the emails where you promised repayment as soon as we're back on our feet." Mom's voice trembles, equal parts anger and disbelief. "You would sue your own parents? Over money?" "No," I reply, meeting her eyes. "I'd hold my parents accountable. There's a difference." Rachel speaks up softly, guilt written all over her face. "Lydia, maybe this isn't the right time." "There's never a right time to tell the truth in this family," I say. "That's the problem." For a moment, no one speaks. The only sound is the faint ticking of the grandfather clock by the hallway, measuring the death of denial, second by second. Ethan slumps back into his chair, muttering, "You're out of your mind." "Maybe," I say, turning toward him. "But at least I'm free." Mom tries one last weapon, her tone of icy martyrdom. "You think this makes you powerful? It just makes you bitter. You'll regret turning your back on us." I smile faintly. "I'm not turning my back. I'm turning off the faucet." I gather my purse from the counter. My movements are deliberate, calm, each one a declaration. "I'll be in touch about the repayment terms," I add, slipping my phone into my coat. Dad looks up at me, his voice low, weary. "Lydia, I should have protected you from this. I'm sorry." I pause, softening. "You still can, Dad, by not pretending anymore." As I move toward the door again, Mom shouts after me, "If you walk out, you're no longer my daughter." I turn back, meet her eyes, and deliver the final blow. "Then I guess you just made that official the day you sold my love for 50 grand. Gasps ripple through the room. Ethan's face is buried in his hands. Rachel's crying quietly. Dad's staring at the table like it's the first time he's really seeing the cracks. I reach for the door handle once more. This time, I don't hesitate. Nathan follows, his steps quiet but sure. As I push the door open, cold air rushes in, washing the house with a gust of honesty it's never known. I look back one last time, not at the faces, but at the empty space between us that finally feels earned. "Consider this," I say softly. "My Christmas gift to all of you, a chance to live without me cleaning up your messes." Then I walk out, shutting the door behind me. The click of the latch echoes like a gavel in a courtroom. Final. Inevitable. Freeing. Outside, snow is falling in slow, gentle spirals. Nathan slips his arm around me. "You okay?" he asks quietly. I take a deep breath, watching the flakes melt on my coat sleeve. "For the first time," I whisper. "Yeah, I really am." The front door clicks shut behind me, and for a few seconds all I hear is the winter wind howling through the bare trees. Nathan's hand finds mine as we step off the porch, but before we even reach the car, the door bursts open again. It's Diane. Her coat's half on, her hair's loose, and her eyes are wild, not angry, but furious in a way that comes from betrayal, not shock. "Lydia, wait!" she calls out, breath visible in the cold. "You're not the only one who's done being quiet." I turn slowly. "Diane, you don't have to." "Oh, I do," she interrupts, stepping onto the snow-covered path. "Because if anyone here deserves to hear the truth, it's you." Behind her, I can see the family crowding the doorway, Ethan pale and panicked, Mom frozen in disbelief, Dad hovering like a man who's finally realizing the cost of all his silence. Diane takes a deep breath. "You all think Lydia just embarrassed you tonight?" "No. She did you a favor, because this family has been pretending for years. And I'm done playing the supportive wife who keeps her mouth shut." "Diane, that's enough," Ethan snaps, his voice low, warning. She spins toward him, eyes blazing. "No, Ethan, what's enough is the lying. You told me the money Lydia gave you was an investment, not a bailout. You made me drain our savings to buy that stupid diamond necklace for your mother because you said it would keep up appearances." Mom stiffens, color draining from her face. "Excuse me?" "Oh, don't act shocked," Diane fires back. "That necklace you wear every Christmas? The one you said Dad bought for your anniversary? It's from me, because your son didn't want you to know he was broke." Ethan's voice shakes. "Diane, stop talking." "No, you stop lying," she says, voice trembling now but strong. "I've watched Lydia carry all of you while you smiled and called her selfish. You let her fund your comfort, your image, your denial, and she did it out of love." The silence that follows feels like an earthquake silent at first, but powerful enough to split the ground. Rachel whispers, "Is that true?" I can barely look at her. "Yes." Mom finally finds her voice, brittle as glass. "You people act like I'm the villain here. Everything I did was to hold this family together." I take a step forward, my breath fogging in the cold air. "No, Mom. You controlled it, not held it. There's a difference. You built a kingdom where everyone had to play a role. Ethan the success, Rachel the example, Julia the innocent, Dad the silent husband, and me, the invisible fixer." Her jaw tightens. "And now what? You think you're better than us because you finally decided to throw your money around like a weapon?" I let out a shaky laugh. "No, I'm just done confusing generosity with servitude." Diane turns to me, eyes softening. "You don't owe them an explanation, Lydia." "Not anymore." But I look back at my mother, because after everything, I still need to say it, if only once. "I'm not your enemy," I tell her. "I wanted your approval, your love. I spent years paying for it, hoping one day it would come, but I've finally realized something love that demands sacrifice to earn isn't love. It's debt, and I'm done being in debt." The porch light flickers above us, a sharp wind sweeping through the silence. Nathan wraps his arm around my shoulders, steady and sure. I take one last look at them, the family that raised me to be small, standing stunned beneath the glow of their perfect Christmas lights, and I know this time, the silence that follows isn't mine to fill. Good luck keeping the kingdom, I say softly. I'm reclaiming my peace. Then I turn away for the final time, walking down that snowy driveway with Nathan and Diane behind me, 3 people stepping out of the same shadow. For the first time in years, the night feels wide open, cold, sharp, and honest, and I can finally breathe. The snow falls harder now, the flakes drifting like slow-motion ash over the quiet street. Each crunch of my boots feels like the punctuation mark at the end of a chapter I never thought I'd finish. Diane walks a few steps ahead, her arms wrapped tightly around herself. Nathan lingers close beside me, silent but steady, like he knows words would only cheapen this moment. Behind us, the house glows with warm light, but it looks small now, shrinking, like a stage after the final curtain. I glance back once. Through the window I can see shadows moving, Mom pacing, Ethan shouting, Rachel holding Julia, Dad sitting motionless at the table. It's chaos, the kind that's been simmering for years and finally boiled over. For once, I'm not the one cleaning it up. The wind bites through my coat, stinging my cheeks, but I welcome it. The cold feels honest, something real after years of emotional frostbite. Nathan slips his hand into mine. You sure you're okay? I'm not sure of anything, I say, breath fogging in the air, but I know I'm done apologizing for who I am. He nods, eyes soft. Then this is the right kind of uncertain. I smile faintly, and for the first time in what feels like forever, the smile doesn't feel forced. Diane stops by her car, turning to face me. Her mascara's smudged, but her expression is clear freedom looks good on her too. You did the right thing, Lydia, she says quietly. You just did it first. Then maybe that's what we were all waiting for, I reply. Someone to finally stop pretending. We hug a brief, trembling kind of hug that says thank you without words. When she drives off, her taillights blur into the snowfall, fading like the last echo of an old song. Nathan opens the car door for me, and as I slide inside, I take one last look at the house. The porch light flickers, weak but still shining. Somehow, that feels poetic. Ready to go home? He asks. I stare out the windshield, at the white road ahead wide, untouched, full of possibility. I already am, I whisper. He starts the engine, and we drive off into the snow, leaving behind the ghosts of a family I finally stopped trying to save. The morning after feels strangely quiet. I wake up in Nathan's apartment in downtown Omaha, sunlight spilling across the hardwood floor, as if the universe is trying to erase the wreckage of last night with warmth. But peace never comes without echoes. By the time I make coffee, my phone is already vibrating on the counter missed calls from Ethan, 2 from Dad, and 1 from an unknown number that I know is Mom. The kind of silence that follows a storm never really means calm. It just means people are busy counting the damage. Nathan appears in the doorway, hair tousled, voice soft. You don't have to check them yet. I wrap my hands around the mug, watching the steam rise. If I don't, I'll just imagine what they're saying. And I've done enough guessing for one lifetime. I press play on the first voicemail. It's Rachel. Her voice is shaky. Lyd, I didn't sleep. None of us did. Mom's still furious. Ethan's blaming you for everything. And Dad, he looks like he aged 10 years overnight. But I just wanted to say I'm sorry. You didn't deserve that. I close my eyes, breathing through the ache. The next message is from Dad. Lydia, I won't pretend I handled things right. I let your mother control too much. I saw how she treated you and I stayed quiet because it was easier. I'm sorry. I'll call again when things settle. It's the first apology I've ever heard from him, and it lands heavier than I expect. Then comes the text from Ethan. You've ruined this family. Hope you're proud. Typical. Nathan sets a plate of toast beside me. You don't owe them your mourning, he says gently, or your peace. I nod, though my chest still feels tight. I know, but it's strange, isn't it? For years, all I wanted was a message like this. Any message, any sign they cared. Now that I have it, all I feel is done. He smiles softly. That's what healing feels like. It's not loud, it's quiet. It's you drinking coffee instead of apologizing. Outside, snow still glistens on the rooftops. The world looks untouched, even though mine cracked open less than 12 hours ago. I check one last message, this one from Diane. Left him. Told him to handle his mess without me. Thank you for lighting the match I was too afraid to strike. I stare at the screen, a lump forming in my throat. For the first time, I don't feel guilty. I feel aligned. I set my phone down and whisper, mostly to myself, maybe destruction was the only way to rebuild. Nathan nods quietly beside me. And you did it beautifully. When the plane touches down in Austin, the sun is already melting the last traces of Nebraska snow from my mind. The sky here feels different, bigger, bluer, unapologetically alive. Nathan squeezes my hand as we step off the jet bridge. Home, he says softly. The word lingers. Home. Not a house, not a family name, not something I had to earn. Just a place I chose and built. The drive back is quiet. Austin hums with its usual chaos food trucks lining the streets, joggers on South Congress, the skyline glowing warm against the afternoon haze. But something in me has shifted. For the first time, the city doesn't feel like an escape. It feels like mine. At my studio, the scent of paint and cedar hits me the moment I unlock the door. Canvases lean against the walls, half-finished sketches scattered across the desk. It looks exactly as I left it, but I see it differently now, like a mirror of every piece of myself I had to reclaim. Nathan sets down our bags. You should rest, he says. You've been through a war. I smile faintly. Wars end when people stop fighting. I just stopped showing up to one that wasn't mine. He walks over, brushing a strand of hair from my face. So, what now? I look around the studio, the blank canvas waiting on the easel, the sunlight spilling across the floorboards like a quiet invitation. Now, I say. I paint something that doesn't come from pain. He grins. I'd like to see that. When he leaves to pick up groceries, I stand at the window, watching the city breathe. Cars pass below, music drifts from a nearby cafe, and for the first time in years, I don't feel like I'm missing something. My phone buzzes, a message from Rachel. Mom hasn't spoken since last night. Dad's staying with me for a while. Diane's gone. Ethan, just wanted you to know we're all starting to see it now. I stare at the message, then set the phone down gently. No anger, no sadness, just peace. Outside, the wind shifts, carrying the faint scent of rain and promise. For once, I don't need anyone's permission to feel whole. Austin feels like a beginning. And this time, I'm not running from anything. I'm walking toward myself. It's been 5 days since I returned to Austin. 5 days of silence from my mother. I almost started to believe that maybe, just maybe, she'd accepted the boundaries I finally set. Then the email arrives. The subject line reads, Unbelievable behavior from my daughter. No greeting. No warmth, just accusation waiting to unfold. I stare at it for a moment before opening it, bracing myself like someone stepping back into a burning house. Lydia, I don't even know where to begin. You humiliated this family in front of guests, insulted your brother, disrespected your father, and broke your mother's heart all in one evening. Do you have any idea what people in our circle must be saying? I gave you everything. Discipline, opportunity, class, and you repay me with cruelty. You've become cold, calculating, and selfish. This man you're seeing, Nathan, has clearly influenced you against your own family. It's tragic what love can do to weak people. I refuse to be spoken to like that by my own child. You may think money gives you power, but it doesn't buy forgiveness. Don't bother responding. I wouldn't understand anyway. Mom. By the time I reach the end, my chest feels tight, not because of her words, but because of how predictable they are. The same tone, the same control disguised as concern. Nathan finds me sitting on the couch, laptop still open. Is that from her? I nod. She's rewriting the story already. She's the victim again. He sits beside me. You don't have to answer. I know, I whisper. But part of me still wants to. Not to argue, just to tell her that I see her clearly now, that she doesn't scare me anymore. He squeezes my hand. Then say it, but say it for you, not for her. I close the laptop instead. No, I say softly. Not yet. Let her talk to the version of me she made up. The real me stopped listening years ago. Outside, the Austin rain starts to fall, tapping gently against the window. And for the first time, her voice, her control feels small against the sound of my own quiet peace. I'm in my studio, finishing a client call, when my phone buzzes with a message from Rachel. Just one line. Ethan's house got foreclosed today. For a moment, I just stare at the screen. The words don't hit all at once. They arrive slowly, like waves rolling onto shore. Nathan walks in, holding 2 coffees. You okay? I hand him the phone. He reads, then lets out a quiet exhale. So it finally happened. I nod. Yeah, I guess the bank didn't wait long after I canceled the payment. There's no satisfaction in saying it out loud, no gloating, no revenge high. Just the strange stillness of justice finally arriving. Rachel calls an hour later. Her voice is low, tired. He lost almost everything, Lyd. Diane took the kids and moved in with her sister. He's been crashing with Mom, but even she's barely talking to him. It's ugly. Has he said anything about me? I ask. She hesitates. Only that you were cruel, but honestly, everyone knows the truth now. He did this to himself. I thank her and hang up. Then I stand by the window, staring at the skyline bleeding into dusk. Somewhere out there, my brother, the golden child, has finally fallen off his pedestal. Nathan comes up behind me, wrapping his arms around my waist. You don't have to feel bad, he murmurs. I don't, I whisper. But I don't feel good either. I thought when everything came crashing down, I'd feel free. Instead, I just feel sad for him. He nods. That's what makes you different from them. I rest my head against his chest, listening to the steady rhythm of his heart. He always thought money was control. Maybe now he'll learn it's supposed to be responsibility. Nathan presses a kiss to my temple. And maybe now they'll learn you were never the selfish one. The city outside hums with evening life, honest, imperfect, alive. I look at the canvas on my easel, half-finished, vibrant, chaotic, beautiful. Maybe this is what redemption looks like, I say quietly. Not forgiveness from them, but peace with myself. And for the first time, I mean it. Spring comes early to Austin that year. The air smells of rain and new beginnings, and the city hums with the soft chaos of life waking up again. It's been 3 months since the night everything changed, since the dinner, the confrontation, the unraveling. Enough time for silence to become peace and distance to become perspective. My studio is brighter now. I finally tore down the old paintings, the ones born from exhaustion and guilt, and started over. The walls are lined with new canvases, wild and fearless, filled with color I didn't know I was capable of using. This morning, I'm packing one of them, a massive abstract swirl of blues and golds to ship, to a gallery in Denver. It's my first solo show. My name, Lydia Carter, will hang on its own wall, not next to anyone else's. Nathan's voice calls from the kitchen. Coffee or tea, Miss Famous Artist? I laugh. Coffee. Always coffee. He brings 2 mugs and sits beside me, watching as I tape the box closed. I still remember when you told me you'd never put your work in a gallery, said it wasn't real art. I grinned, shaking my head. That was before I stopped letting other people define what's real. He leans closer, his voice soft. And before you stopped defining yourself through pain. That one hits home. I glance at the painting again, at the bold, defiant strokes, and nod. Yeah, turns out healing makes better art than hurt ever did. My phone buzzes, a message from Rachel. Mom started therapy. Dad's helping her. She's not ready to apologize, but she's trying. I read it twice, then set the phone down. It's strange, I say quietly. The moment I stopped chasing her approval was the moment she finally started looking inward. Nathan nods. That's how power shifts. You took yours back. I exhale, long and steady. I guess so. We spend the afternoon walking downtown through Zilker Park, where the trees are beginning to bloom. I watch the families picnicking, the laughter, the music, and I realize, for the first time, I'm not longing for something that's missing. Nathan squeezes my hand. So what's next, Lydia Carter? I smile, eyes on the horizon. I build something new. A life that's mine, a family made of choice, not obligation, and maybe someday I forgive not for them, but for me. He smiles back. Sounds like a masterpiece in progress. The sun dips lower, golden light spilling across the path, and as we walk forward, I know I've finally stepped out of my past into a story I get to write myself. The year folds itself quietly toward winter again. Austin shimmers with soft lights, storefronts dressed in red and gold, the smell of cinnamon drifting through the streets. It's Christmas Eve. 12 months since the night everything came undone. Nathan and I are decorating a small tree in the corner of my studio. It's nothing fancy handmade ornaments, warm string lights, a crooked star on top, but it feels perfect. He teases me as I hang the last ornament, a small glass heart. Still overanalyzing every placement, Miss Perfectionist? Artistic balance, I reply with a grin. There's a difference. Outside, the sound of laughter spills from a nearby cafe. For the first time, I don't feel that ache of exclusion that used to follow me through the holidays. My phone buzzes on the table. A message from Rachel. Mom's invited everyone to a small dinner. No pressure, but she asked me to tell you she's trying. I stare at the message for a long moment. Nathan looks at me, gentle but curious. Are you going? I smile faintly. Maybe not this year, maybe next. For now, I just want to remember what peace feels like. He nods, slipping an arm around me. Then that's exactly where you should be. We turn off the lights except for the glow of the tree. The room fills with that soft, golden hush that only comes with December nights, the kind that feels like forgiveness. Somewhere in Omaha, my family is probably sitting down to dinner. I hope the food tastes a little sweeter this year, not because I'm there, but because they're finally learning to live without bitterness. And here, in my corner of Texas, I whisper a small, silent prayer, not for them to change, but for me to keep growing. For love to stay honest, for peace to stay earned, for beginnings to always find their way home. When I look back on everything that's happened, I realize the hardest part wasn't walking away, it was believing I deserved to. For years, I mistook sacrifice for love, silence for loyalty, and forgiveness for surrender. But the truth is, peace isn't something others give you. It's something you choose, again and again, no matter who tries to take it. I learned that setting boundaries isn't cruelty, it's clarity, that family isn't built on shared blood, but on shared respect, and that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is stop fixing people who never asked to be whole. If you're listening to my story and see a piece of yourself in it, someone tired of being invisible, someone afraid to say enough, then maybe it's your time too. Not to fight, not to run, but to reclaim your own peace. Because healing isn't loud. It's quiet, it's steady, and it begins the moment you decide you're worthy of it. Thank you for watching my story. If it touched your heart, please like, subscribe, share it with someone who needs hope, and tell me in the comments what peace means to you. Merry Christmas, and may your new beginning be fearless.